war at its inception,
June 28, 1914.
it was the beginning of an unspeakable horror.
The world lost of innocence it was never to regain.
Empires tumbled, making way for new nations.
Americans were keenly aware of mounting tension in Europe and subsequent events on the front.
In 1916, Woodrow Wilson ran for president with the slogan, "He kept us out of war."
Although Wilson and the United States pretended that the country could stay out of the conflicts, we knew the inevitable would happen.
The mood of the country was prepared for war. But at the same time, encouraging Wilson to make it.
Still Americans, many of their first or second generation citizens, torn between loyalty to their ancestral country and loyalty to their new adopted one, prayed for peace.
There was great patriotism and willingness to protect home and country.
But people's hope for peace dimmed when incidents of threats threatened the United States and their endeavors.
Eventually, there is no avoiding the fact.
War was on the way. Voices from the past are here to tell some stories. Some are sad, some are glad, some will make you cry. So here we are today, recalling all those stories. Listen closely, then you'll understand. Do you remember those days long ago? Voices will bring back the past. Stories of life and of death so long ago will echo the times in our lives. Those voices from the past are here to tell some stories. Some are sad, some are glad, some will make you cry. So here we are today, recalling all those stories. Listen closely, they will talk to you. Listen closely, they will talk to you.
My name is Louise Cron. I was born on a ship coming over to America from England. I thought I was born in 1900, but the Ellis Island Directory has me born in 1901. I'm the youngest of 8 sisters and brothers. My parents took the entire family to Seymour, Wisconsin. We did this because Grandpa Cron had a large area of land in Allegheny County, and he was willing to give my father a large lot to keep the Cron family together. So we became farmers. When the call for war came, my father enlisted and went to France to fight in the Great War. I remember my mother crying all night the day Daddy left. Remember, she had 8 children. Now she had to run the farm kitchen and told us all to come into the front room to hear what she had to say. We all quickly and quietly traveled into the room and sat down. We didn't know what to expect. Mother proceeded to explain to us how she felt and how she would run the farm without father. My brothers and sisters were very supportive. Because I was 16 and I was still in school, I was told to help when and if I could. Mother was a strong woman, but was she strong enough to run the farm and take care of the family? My mother made a chart with different chores for each of my brothers and sisters to do. Hopefully everything would get done. My mother cooked, washed clothes, gardened, and tried to give morale for the lunch. Our neighbors came over. Mother was too proud to ask them to help. She thanked them and sent them on their way. It is still amazing to me how my mother was able to run the farm and take care of her 8 children all by herself until Daddy came home. Daddy was so proud of Mother that he never raised his voice at her when things were going wrong with the farm. He worked side by side with Mother until she passed away. My mother, Mildred Cron, was an extraordinary woman.
You mustn't quit. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. You never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse that you mustn't quit.
My name is Devin Bronson, and I was born in Wisconsin in the year 1894. When the Great War came along, I enlisted in the Army and became a first lieutenant in 1960. My unit was the 364th Infantry Regiment, 91st Division. In September of 1918, I was 24 years old, and my company and I were sent to fight in the village of Ecnafontaine, France. I was wounded by a grenade, but I continued on and helped capture an enemy dugout. I was wounded later that day by a rifle bolt, but I continued on and stayed with my men all night. The next morning, I joined a company which was on the front line of an attack on Ecnafontaine, along with an enemy machine gun position. Yet again, I was wounded yet a third time by an artillery shell as we started to withdraw. Yet again, I refused to be evacuated and stayed with my company for the rest of the day. The next morning, I made a full recovery and went to the hospital. On November 19, 1929, I was awarded the Medal of Honor by President Herbert Hoover himself. I led good life and died at the age of 62 on May 29, 1957. I am buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. My gravesite is Section 30, Lot 500, number 2.
Hear now the citation advance of the 364th Infantry, First Lieutenant Bronson was struck by an exploding enemy hand grenade, receiving deep cuts to his face and the back of his head. He nevertheless participated in the capture of an enemy dugout from which a great number of prisoners were taken. On the afternoon of the same day, he was painfully wounded in the left arm, and after receiving first aid treatment, he was directed to the rear. Disregarding these instructions, First Lieutenant Bronson remained on duty with his company through the night, although suffering from severe pain and shock. On the morning of 27 September, his regiment resumed its attack, the object being the village of Eppley-Fontaine. Company H, to which First Lieutenant Bronson was assigned, was left in support of the attacking line, Company E. He gallantly joined that company in spite of his wounds and engaged with it in the capture of the village. After the capture, he remained with Company E and participated in the capture of an enemy machine gun, he himself killing the enemy gunner. Shortly after this encounter, the company was compelled to retire due to heavy enemy artillery barrage. During this retirement, First Lieutenant Bronson, who was the last man to leave position, was again wounded in both arms by an enemy high-explosive shot. Although bleeding profusely and faint from the loss of blood, First Lieutenant Bronson remained with the survivors throughout the night of the second day, refusing to go to the rear for treatment. His conspicuous gallantry and spirit of self-sacrifice were a great source of inspiration to the entire command.
Left, right, left, right, left. Fellow parishioners, we are here today to honor all of our fellow church members off fighting in the Great War. Now, I know it's not the Great War because there will be more wars to come, but we are still recognizing all of our men and women fighting in Europe for us to stay free. As George Washington said, observe good faith towards all nations, cultivate peace and harmony with all. I also remember the words that Abraham Lincoln said during his Gettysburg Address. The United States would fight on, not for its own sake, but the sake of all nations conceived in liberty and dedicated to equality. As we recognize all my brothers and sisters in the Great War, we know that God is with them and our country is firmly planted at its feet to preserve and persevere throughout this trying time.
dear mother, this is the first chance I've had to write. We're now located in dugouts in Germany, near St. Remy. I hope all is going well with you and the family. Are you taking care of yourself? I wish I could be with you, but it's my duty to serve my country in the Great War. We traveled by the main road. My feet are very sore. They will get better. I wish we could have gone through many cities now, but we find ourselves on the front line. I've seen a couple of air battles, and believe me, the Yanks were holding our own. I'm proud to be an American soldier, Mom. We live in dugouts because they're safer. They're constructed of steel, stone, and sandbags. And they're set way back in the hills. The section we're in now is hilly, and there's 16 towns from the top of one hill. That is what's left of towns. There isn't even enough remaining from some of them to shelter a bird. I want most of all, Mom, a letter from home. And it would be a great present in this faraway place. I love you, and I miss you. Write soon. Your son, Robert. M is for the million things she gave me. O means only that she's growing old. T is for the tears we shed to save me. H is for her heart of purest gold. E is for her eyes of love like shining. R means right, and right shall always be. Put them all together, they spell mother. A word that means the world to me. M is for the million things she gave me. O means only that she's growing old. T is for the tears we shed to save me. H is for her heart of purest gold. E is for her eyes of love like shining. R means right, and right shall always be. Put them all together, they spell mother. A word that means the world to
Gold Star Mother. The sounds of battle long have ceased. Peace conquered war and death. Yet memories whisper from those years with cruel, untiring breath. Yes, peace has come, the peace so dear, for which men fought and died. But there are some who will never have the peace way down deep inside. And so we humbly bow our heads. Some things can't be undone. Our prayers may help to ease the pain for those who lost a son. We won't forget their sacrifice. We'll heed some way or another. That dying soldier's last request, please take good care of my mother.
pictures on the front of some of those programs out there today. He was born in 1871 and went to grade school on the Oneida Reservation. He then went to the industrial school at Carlisle, Pennsylvania for 6 years and graduated at the age of 20 in 1891. A very interesting fact, 27 of these Carlisle-educated Oneidans served in the military in World War I. After graduation, Josiah took a short course at Dickinson Preparatory School so he could teach. He went back to Oneida and taught at the Oneida Indian Boarding School. But Josiah wanted to be a physician. However, he didn't have any means to attain this goal. The Holy Apostles minister, Mr. Merrill, was making a trip out east to seek funds for the Oneida Hospital. During one of his presentations, he mentioned a great need for a resident physician to care for the more than 2,000 Oneida people at the mission. A member of the Junior Auxiliary of St. Paul's Church came forward with a promise that she would provide means for the education for a physician for Oneida. Because of the promise of Miss Ethel M. Cheney, Mr. Powles entered the Milwaukee Medical College in 1900 at the age of 28. The Milwaukee Medical College became Marquette University, and Powles was their first Indian alumni in 1904. The first Oneida to graduate from medical school anywhere in the United States. Before he went to medical school, he married Electa Skendaw in 1897. In 1904, Josiah returned to Oneida as the director and physician of the Oneida Hospital, with his wife Electa as the assistant director and nurse. For 12 years, Dr. Powles carried out his duties at the hospital while also caring for the Oneida children at the Oneida Boarding School, which also had a small hospital on site. When the United States entered the Great War, Dr. Powles enlisted in the Army and was sent overseas to France, serving on the medical detachment of the 308th Infantry 77th Division. On the battlefield, Lieutenant Powles crossed an area of intense machine gun and artillery fire to go to the aid of a wounded comrade, Captain James M. McKibben, dressed his wounds, and carried him to the rear. McKibben did not survive, and Powles himself was seriously wounded. 3 weeks later, he died from his wounds just 5 days before the armistice. Josiah Paulus was 47. He was awarded posthumously the Distinguished Service Cross. Josiah Paulus is buried in Holy Apostles Cemetery in Oneida, Wisconsin.
First Lieutenant, Medical Corps, U.S. Army. Medical Detachment, 308th Infantry, 77th Division. Date of action, October 14, 1918. The Distinguished Service Cross is presented to Josiah A. Paulus, First Lieutenant, Medical Corps, U.S. Army, for extraordinary heroism in action near Chevrels, France, on October 14, 1918. When notified that his colleague, Captain James M. McKibben, had been wounded, Lieutenant Paulus immediately went forward to his assistance. He crossed an area subjected to intense machine gun and constant artillery fire. He reached his colleague, whose wounds proved to be fatal, and after dressing his wounds, had him carried to the rear. Lieutenant Paulus was seriously wounded while performing this service. His hometown was West Superior, Wisconsin.
Be steadfast, my boy, when you're tempted to do what you know to be right. Stand firm by the colors of manhood, and you will overcome in the fight. The right be your cry